Our next candidates are running for the offices of Ohio State Representative. The role of an Ohio representative is they listen to the concerns of their constituents and speak for them. They develop solutions to the needs of their districts through legislative action, or they regularly review actions of state agencies. When a committee recommends a bill for passage and the Rules and Reference Committee schedules it for consideration, the bill then comes before the House for a vote. During the floor session, representatives debate the merits of the proposals. After the debate is closed, it is the duty of each member to cast a vote in favor or against the bill. Of equal importance to their legislative roles, each state representative also acts as a liaison between groups and individuals in their districts and state and federal agencies. This interaction empowers constituents by providing the personal assistance necessary to receive important services or benefits from the State Department and commissions. As the league, because they have split Trumbull County, we are putting all four representative candidates together for the questions. Ms. Pardon is not able to be here, so we will have the three. It will also go in a round robin, and through the draw, Mr. Law begins first with his 2-minute opening statement.
Good morning. My name is Randy Law, and I'm running for state representative in the new 64th district. I had the honor and privilege of serving the old 64th district in the Ohio House of Representatives in 2005 and 2006. I believe we had a very successful legislative term, and I was able to fulfill all of my campaign promises during that term. We focused briefly on passing the largest landfill reform bill in the state's history and bringing back the safety and requirements and regulations in a very pro-business bill to pass and deliver on that campaign promise. I was also able to focus and pass a very large and comprehensive firefighter safety training bill, and also work with the Speaker, the Governor, and the Senate to pass the largest tax reform the state of Ohio has ever seen, reforming the entire tax code from top to bottom and delivering the largest tax cut in the state's history to working families and small businesses, all while having the smallest growth budget in 40 years. The three main issues I plan on addressing if I'm elected here in November will be making sure we have a seat at the majority, to make sure that jobs are brought to this area in conjunction with this oil and gas boom that's coming in this area. I think it's very important to have folks that are ready to address the issues as they come up with both the legislature and administration. Also, I'll be focusing on the septic tank crisis that's facing this county. Make sure that we repeal the consent decree and put Trumbull County on an even par with the rest of the state of Ohio. I'll also be focusing every day on taxes and regulations, making sure that those taxes and regulations that are passed are pro-jobs, pro-family, make Trumbull County and Ohio a better place to live. Thank you.
Our second representative to give, candidate to give his opening remarks is Mr. Sean O'Brien.
Good morning. I'd like to thank the Women League of Voters for having us here today. I am Sean O'Brien. I am a candidate from the 63rd District. I've had the privilege and honor of representing the 65th District for one term. Currently, I'm on the Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee, Homeland Security, Public Safety and Transportation Committee, the Insurance Committee, the Joint Committee on Healthcare Oversight, the Joint Committee on Bingo and Skill Gaming, and the Aerospace and Defense Advisory Council. I was appointed by the House of Representatives on the Tax Structure Committee and the 21st Century Ohio Manufacturers Task Force. I'm a graduate of Edinburgh University in Political Science, graduate of the University of Akron School of Law. I am a former assistant county prosecutor for 12 years under Dennis Watkins. I've been involved in our community by being president of the Trumbull County Community Foundation. I was on the board of Someplace Safe, Inspiring Minds, and the Youngstown Air Base Council. I am running to continue to give our community a strong voice in Columbus. What I'm most proud of is when I was in Columbus, and when I don't look at whether it's a Democrat or Republican. I fight and look at the legislation that's before us and whether or not that's good for our community. I've worked hard to be responsive both to my community, what I think is good and what's wrong. I've been very active I've been very active in trying to work with the governor and some of the events that's going on in Columbus. I've sponsored legislation to protect Ohio's youth under House Bill 143, protect our seniors under House Bill 232. I introduced legislation for Sheriff Altier for inmates to pay for electronic monitoring under House Bill 457. I've introduced legislation to combine Eastern and Central District Courts under House Bill 556. And if elected, I will continue to serve our community.
Next will be Mr. Ludson.
Hi there, I'm Tom Letson, and I'm your state representative here in Allen Township in the 64th District, and I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for inviting us, twisting some arms, and getting us all to come out here. The quick background: went to school in Champion, have a BA from Kent State, a JD from the University of Akron. Spent 14 years at Copper Weld Steel, ended up as a machinist out there. Great place to work. I wish it were still around here. But what do you really need to know? You really need to know what I think the purpose of government is. Because all those other things are just a laundry list you can find somewhere else. And I believe that there are two reasons for the formation of a government. And one is for empowerment, and the other one is for protection. And protection is pretty easy to understand. That we need to have laws that will allow us to address our grievances when we have them, civil law, or to punish those people when wrong is done to another person, criminal law. And those have to be fairly and equitably administered underneath our judicial system, one of the branches of government. Empowerment is the other part of it. Empowerment is that which allows us to have public schools, gather in places and meet and air our grievances, vote for the people that represent us in the different governmental bodies. Those are the things that are most important, in my opinion, as to what government is all about. And I am determined to continue the protection of government and to keep empowering our populace so their votes can be counted every election. Thank you.
Our first question will start with Mr. O'Brien, then will be Mr. Lutson, and then Mr. Law. The question is, do you believe that the turnpike should be privatized and why?
Thank you. I don't believe the turnpike should be privatized. I'm on Transportation Committee, and I've expressed this to the Director of ODOT. And part of the reason why I'm concerned about privatizing it is an asset that works for us, and it's been working for us. It brings income into the state. It doesn't cost us money. And when you think about the commerce that is so important to have that turnpike viable and operational, it's very important to turn it over to a private firm that's going to get one-time money I don't think it's good government. I think having that under the control of the Ohio Department of Transportation has worked and will continue to work. That being said, there is a study being done right now. It is not completed. The study has not done its recommendation, but as I see things now, and from what I've seen on Transportation Committee, I do not believe an asset as valuable as the turnpike should be privatized.
Mr. Lutz?
Thank you. good, it's actually not. And there are a lot of reasons why it's not. First of all, it's an asset that takes care of itself. Secondly, we're in a downturn in the economy, and if you wanted to do this about 8 years ago, you'd have gotten about twice what you could possibly get for it at the moment. Thirdly, we owe the federal government money should we actually try to do this. The toll revenue credits that amount to a couple $100 million come straight off the top of any attempt to do what is being described by the administration. It campaigns very well. It sounds really good, especially to those people that live south of I-76. Those of us in the northern part of the state understand its usefulness, understand how well it is kept. The people down south are the ones that are pushing it to the denigration of one of our best assets. Bad idea.
Mr. Law?
You're welcome to. I will start off and tell you I'm open to the idea. I have not made a decision on it. I'm looking forward to the study. I believe we do not make decisions that are that important to the state of Ohio in advance without all the facts. And to do so is irresponsible to you as voters. I think it's very important to understand that I would be in the majority and I would have a seat at the table to negotiate. If we move forward, if the study says there's a good possibility, a good reason to do this, we need to make sure that a lot of guarantees are in place to alleviate a lot of the concerns. They're not talking about selling, as far as I understand it is leasing. I also understand, having served on transportation previously myself, that it is a myth that the turnpike is self-sufficient. We actually roll a lot of other monies into there, and it is not totally self-sufficient. That's how government hides money in that area. So we'll be open to it. If it's not a good idea for the state of Ohio, I love the turnpike, but we'll make the best decision possible at the time. Thank you.
The next question is, what do you feel are the best uses for the expected oil and gas tax revenue? And the question will begin with Mr. Lutz.
To rephrase the question, best use for revenues from oil and gas?
Best uses for the expected oil and gas tax revenue.
Well, unless we do something about what the severance tax is at the moment, there won't be any real revenues from oil and gas. Ohio has some of the lowest tax on, it's called a severance tax. And what it is a tax at the wellhead. And comparing us to most of the states around us, and comparing us to, let's say, Texas, we are the lowest in those terms. If we should change that, if there should be revenue, I believe it should be put into education. After all, I think I previously said empowerment is one of the promises of government, and education is one of the things that empowers the best. We have levies on just about every school district that we could fill in those needs with that type of tax base. And that's where I think it should go, right straight into education. That's the most valuable part of our youth's upbringing, is what we give them. Thank you.
Mr. Law?
I actually feel there's going to be a huge increase in tax revenues because this is going to spur growth and opportunity throughout this entire region, creating large businesses and many, many small businesses. In 10 years, you're not going to recognize Route 11. That's the entire key to this entire development from the lake to the river. And I'm looking forward to it, the growth and the opportunity to keep our folks back there. When you have that kind of growth, when you increase small businesses, you increase tax revenue. Those dollars have to be put into local infrastructure. I'd love for our local commissioners and local mayors to be able to decide where they need to invest in the local infrastructures that are crumbling around us. Use those monies there. And also, we never need to forget, we need to look at making sure that Ohio structurally is always on the cutting edge of attracting businesses and investing in attracting them, making our tax structure lower, and delivering the money back to the state of Ohio and the people that work for a living. Thank you.
Thank you. I would, and I've expressed this while I've been down in Columbus, is infrastructure development. And one thing I've gotten in an argument with the governor is I oppose the severance tax at this time. Because what the governor wants to do is he wants to use the money and give it to a tax cut across the state of Ohio. I think with the infrastructure we have here, we can't compete with Columbus, we can't compete with Toledo and Dayton because we don't have the water lines, we don't have the sewer lines. Our community with the oil and gas is going to be the one that has to deal with the debilitating trucks and all the infrastructure deterioration because of this industry. If we're going to have taxes, we should use this for our community and our infrastructure development. The governor pulled out 2 dimes and said, I just want 20 cents. I said, you want 20 cents? Give us 5 cents for our community because we're the ones dealing with the problem, not the rest of the state of Ohio.
Our next question will begin with Mr. Long. The question is, explain the Joint Economic Development District and what is going on with this in our area.
Are you asking me to explain what a JED is?
It says explain JED and what is going on with this in our district.
Well, JEDs allow different political entities to cooperate with each other economically and tax-wise. It's been, I'm a proponent of them. Anytime we can get local governments to cooperate, to attract business and work together is very, very important. They are being used more and more. I think some of our local officials could probably speak exactly to the ones that are, being used right now. They have been on the increase. I support them because I like those decisions being made locally as much as possible and like to encourage the cooperations between townships, cities, and everybody within our area.
I support JED's joint economic districts. We have one pending right now in Niles and Weathersfield that's going forward that I support. I know Brookfield and Hubbard have also had JEDs and other communities have had it. It's very important that we can work together, and that's getting government and local government to work together, and I think that's very important. The more cooperation we have, especially at the local level, because it will increase taxes, available resources can be shared. Joint economic districts, I think, are very important, and we need to work to make those happen more often. What can we do to do that? Currently, right now, I'm working with Brookfield Police, Hubbard Township, and Hubbard City to consolidate their police departments. That's an example. It's not a JED, but it's coming together, sharing of resources. I think it's very important as we move forward with the cuts to local government and the cuts that we've seen and the tax base deteriorating. We need to have more cooperation and more of our resources pooled and shared together.
And Mr. Ludson.
Thank you. It's an interesting question, but no one's going to be against the joint economic development. None of us here are. None of us here are. One of the best examples of that kind of sharing is V&M Star. We have a European steel manufacturer that took a look at a site along the Mahoning River where they were currently had a good investment, and they made a great investment there. And they took land from the city of Youngstown and the city of Girard and married them together with the cooperation of those two governments and put $750 million of new steel-making manufacturing right there along our river. with the help of $20 million from the state to move some facilities, to move a rail line. We got that together, and that's the cooperation of 2 units of government that we like in this day and age.
And now for our final questions for the candidates, which will begin with Mr. O'Brien. When elected, what specifically do you plan to do about the unconstitutional way schools are now funded?
School funding is a very difficult problem, and this has been around for a very long time. Property taxes aren't the answer. It's unconstitutional. The voucher program offers very difficult solutions to a difficult problem, but I don't think that's the solution either, because it takes away from the public school and gives it to the private school, and it's not on an equal, fair-to-fair basis. Education in Ohio is one of the most important things we as legislators must address and must look at as we move forward. It represents the youth moving forward to what our community and what our state is going to be. Funding it is very, very difficult. Property taxes is not a fair way to do it. We've got to look more and more funding issues and how we're going to accomplish that. Thank you.
Mr. Watson.
I'm going to hear that beat in my dreams tonight. Let me start out by referring to one of the brightest educators in the United States, a guy named Derek Boat, president of Harvard, who said very succinctly, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. And those words are so true. Now, the DeRolf decision that people say unconstitutional funding for schools, it really doesn't say that. What it says is the over-reliance of property tax is unconstitutional. It does not say that that should not be part of the mix. But in the 128th General Assembly, we put into action something that would have been and was a constitutional framework for the continuing funding of public schools. I am not a great believer in charter schools. I believe it is a drain from where our monies ought to be put. It should not be put into the pockets of profiteers. It should be put in our classrooms.
Mr. Law.
I agree with Representative O'Brien. It's very complicated and certainly cannot be addressed very well in a minute response or even in an hour response, to be honest. Right now there's a study commission going on to look at all areas of it. They are traveling around the state receiving input from public and the people involved in education. I'm looking very much forward to working with that. What we need is a low, broad-based tax system that supports education, and slowly, because it's not going to happen overnight. Representative Lutson's correct. They didn't rule that it was unconstitutional. It's the over-reliance on property taxes in a very poorly written decision. So we need to look at weaning ourselves off of the property tax over the course of time, making this more affordable while continuing to put the funds into public education that are so readily deserved. Thank you.
And now for the candidates' 2-minute closings, we would begin with Mr. Lutz.
Once again, I'm Tom. As most of you noticed the fact that I wear a necktie. Linda Ellerby, a very fine essayist and political commentator, once said about this is, how smart can a man be when he puts a noose around his own neck every morning? Okay, this forum is not to talk about people badly. This is to get ideas out and to help you understand what we happen to believe. And I happen to believe that we have been working to improve Ohio, Sean, Capri, and I, and we will continue to do so. That is our mission. That is what you've sent us to Columbus to do. Capri and I for the last 6 years, Sean for the last 2 years. And the three of us work stronger across the aisle than just about any other group in the entire General Assembly. I have more of my introduced legislation enacted into law today in a time when I am in the minority than any other Democrat, first of all, and then 95% of all Republicans. So we work very well across the aisle. We listen to our friends and colleagues that are down there. And I want to leave you with a quote from who I consider to be one of the greatest Ohioans, a guy named Neil Armstrong. And he indicated that the important achievement of Apollo was demonstrating that humanity is not forever chained to this planet, and our vision goes rather further than that, and our opportunities are unlimited. And I believe that our vision and our opportunities are unlimited. And we should take the word of Neil Armstrong and ask and demand a better Ohio. Thank you.
Mr. Law?
I want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum. Most importantly, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming out here this morning on a beautiful Saturday. It's a very important part of democracy, and I hope you take what you hear here today and spread the word. I'm running for state representative here in the 64th because I'd like to bring my experience and work ethic back to the legislature and to hopefully duplicate and approve upon and finish some of the work that we didn't get done when I was in the legislature previously. I promise you we're going to work very hard each and every day on making Ohio very job-friendly. We're going to improve that each and every day I'm down there. We are going to take care of this economic boom that we're looking at in this area, make sure that our children and our grandchildren and our nieces and our nephews are able to come back to this area when they go off to college somewhere else and have a good job and raise a family here and turn this area around. And all of us working together are going to be able to do that. And once again, I'm going to reiterate that I'm going to work very hard on this septic crisis facing Trumbull County. And I promise you, we're going to make changes that are going to be lifting the burden on the folks, the small businesses that are stuck with this ridiculous set of regulations that are crippling our county. If I'm elected, you're going to have a strong voice in the majority, working with the governor's office, the Senate, and the House, and able to get things done. But I also had a reputation in Columbus, working across the lines with our local delegation. I'm the poster child of nonpartisan when it comes to working with things, working with Democrats locally in our area and the communities, and moving this area forward. I'm endorsed strongly by the Warren Tribune, all the pro-life organizations, pro-family organizations, pro-Second Amendment organizations, pro-small business organizations, but the most important endorsement is your support on November 6th. Thank you.
Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you. One of the most important things that my constituents told me during my two-year term is they're tired of government, they're tired of the Democrats and Republicans. They want to do what's right and wrong, and that's one thing I'm proud of. I didn't look at legislation and say it's a Democrat or Republican legislation. I looked at it and said, is it best for the 65th district? And I voted that way, and that's what I'm most proud of. And I've worked across the lines, both partisan with the Democrats and Republicans. I fought the EPA when they sought to put TDS levels that harm GM and Delphi. But I'm also working with the EPA on the septic issues. On Tuesday, Director Nally, at my request, will be here to meet with the county commissioners. He's going to take a tour of Trumbull County to see and hear firsthand What are the issues that we are facing and how do we solve them? When we had the wells and we had seismic activity on December 31st, I was able to, at 4:30, talk with the governor's office, Director Nellie directly, and with the ODNR and shut the wells down. At 10:45, after several conference calls, those wells were shut down. I also talked with, we are having the economic boom that we all predict that's coming. I put together a Shell forum where we had BP, Anadarko, leaders from the oil and gas industry here to meet leaders of our community, the commissioners, the auditors, and other trustees and townships to prepare for this economic boom that we know that's coming. How do we best do that? How do we maximize the benefit and reduce the risk? And for one day, with all the elected officials that were here, Trumbull County, the 65th District, was the center of Ohio government. Again, I have introduced legislation to protect our Ohio youth, our seniors. I've worked with the sheriff to put in electronic monitoring, and the governor on Senate Bill 315, the most comprehensive in the country, to help the shell boom be the most productive that it can be by minimizing the risk.
John, just stay there so you can
Well, in closing, first of all, I would like to thank all the candidates for coming out today. Thank all of you for coming out today. Again, one of the missions of the League of Women Voters is to make sure that we provide you with the information that you need to inform yourself prior to going to the polls. And candidate forums like this certainly do that. We also have information out on our table over there. We've prepared a voter information guide for Trumbull County that will give you all of the information that you need for the upcoming election. So please feel free to take those with you when you go. I encourage you to continue to inform yourself. Early voting has started if you choose to vote early or go to the polls on November 6th.